I've spoken about this a couple of times in the last couple of weeks with different people, so I figure if something is happening in the universe, and maybe this is a good little video to do. When I was a kid, I obviously had to do plays and things at school, and being that I was a very shy and soft-spoken girl, I really struggled with speaking in front of crowds, especially if I was doing a school play and I had to do it in front of a whole hall of people. And in one of the annual plays that I was in, the teacher was very worried that I wouldn't be able to project my voice to all the people who were watching the play. So I said to my dad, you know what, they're thinking about using someone else for this role because I'm too soft. I don't know how to speak louder. I don't want to shout. And I'm so scared when I stand up there that I can't really speak loudly. What do I do? How do I still do this play, which I do want to do on some level? How do I speak loud enough? How do I project my voice? And being the kind of down-to-earth, practical kind of guy that he was, we had this big garden that had levels going down like that. So he had me stand up at the top and he had me recite my lines. It was just a poem, just a short poem, maybe 1 or 2 minutes of speaking. He'd stand in front of me, he had me recite my lines to him and speak to him. And then he'd go to the next level down in the garden and say to me again, speak to him and recite my lines for him. And what happened is the further and further down he went, the more naturally I responded by projecting my voice in order for him to hear me. So I didn't need to shout, I just had to speak to him. So what he said to me is, pick a person at the back of the hall and speak to them. Your body will do the rest. Your body will naturally project your voice. And he proved it to me in our little garden experiment, because he went way down to the bottom of the garden, much bigger than a hall, and there was no walls for the sound to echo off of, and he could still hear me because I was naturally projecting my voice all the way down to where he was. And even though I was petrified, and even though I was shaking and my face was blood red and I felt like I was going to die, I stood up there, and the teachers didn't replace me because I proved to them that I could project my voice effectively enough to be heard. We didn't have mics, so I just had to do it naturally, and I did my play. So that's my little tip for doing public speeches. And interestingly enough, as I've been telling this story to the different people in my life who've mentioned that they had to do public speaking, it made it so visible to me how we can solve problems that seem so complicated just by getting back down to earth, really, just by grounding ourselves within the problems. Where if someone had tried to explain to me how to project my voice, I wouldn't have been able to understand it necessarily as easily as that practical exercise that my dad did with me. And so often, in a lot of parts of our lives, we try to intellectualize things, we try to rationally understand things, understand concepts, but there's so much that we could just take those few steps further by grounding it in something practical, sometimes something physical. Obviously, everyone learns differently, but for me, being able to see and experience something physically and see how it works and see why it works and see that it works, that's what helps me to process information much easier. Once I understand how something works, that's it. I've got it. It's in my brain. It's not going to go anywhere. But if I'm trying to intellectually understand something or memorize something, I don't retain information very well. So next time you're facing a problem that seems so big and out of control, ground it. Even if it means asking someone for help, someone who's just down to earth, maybe someone who's just not in that same position. They might be able to see things that you're missing because of your anxiety. And I know that it's easy to miss things when we're anxious. When I'm anxious, my mind goes all over the place and invents all these scenarios that will never happen. Well, most likely never happen. But that's where I kind of hold myself when I'm anxious. But once I, whichever way, ground myself again, then everything becomes that much smoother and easier and more tangible. All right, thanks for watching. You're going to see me next time.